Welcome into the Daily Bible Verse Podcast. My name's Jonny Gaston. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're taking a look at 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. This verse stands as one of the most liberating and countercultural verses in the entire Bible. In the context of Paul's life, it captures God's response to the apostles' desperate plea to remove a painful, quote, thorn in the flesh, a persistent weakness that kept him humble amid extraordinary spiritual revelations. Paul begged God 3 times to take away his thorn, but God said no. Instead, he offered something far better. His suffering would be met with his sustaining grace in the revelation that divine power thrives precisely where human strength ends. Paul's response flips the script on suffering. He doesn't just endure his weakness, he boasts in it. The verse teaches that our limitations are no obstacle for God's work, but the very stage where his power performs most beautifully. It's a call to stop hiding our cracks and start celebrating how God's light shines through them. All right, let's take this verse and let's break it down phrase by phrase. But he said to me, this is intimate. Paul isn't quoting a general principle. He's recounting a personal conversation with the risen Christ. In your weakest moment, God doesn't shout from a distance. He speaks directly to you. The next phrase, my grace is sufficient for you. Sufficient means enough, fully adequate, with no shortages. God doesn't promise to remove every hardship, but he guarantees his grace will never run dry. It's not, quote, barely enough to survive. It's completely enough to thrive. The next phrase, therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses. Paul doesn't grit his teeth and tolerate weakness. He gladly boasts in it. This is revolutionary. In a world obsessed with highlighting strengths, curating perfect images, Paul chooses to spotlight his vulnerabilities because they showcase Christ. The next phrase, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Rest upon evokes the image of a tent being pitched or covering settling over someone. Paul wants the very power of Jesus to dwell, settle, and operate through his brokenness. You know, every time I hear this verse, it reminds me of a beautiful story. Imagine a once beautiful clay pot, now full of cracks from years of use and pressure. Its owner could discard it. Most would probably go ahead and throw it away, get a different pot, or maybe even try to hide the flaws with fancy paint. But instead, the owner fills it with pure, life-giving water and carries it through a parched, dry garden every day. As the water seeps through those very cracks, it waters the dry soil on both sides of the path, causing flowers to bloom where nothing should grow. The pot feels its weakness with every step, yet the weakness is what allows the water to reach where it's needed most. In the same way, your cracks or limitations aren't disqualifications. They are the very openings where God's sufficient grace flows to a thirsty world. The question isn't whether you're strong enough. The question is whether you're willing to be carried, filled, and used exactly as you are, so that Christ's power, not yours, produces the beauty. God is looking for willingness. He's looking for willingness. Think about that for a minute. Am I willing that God would use me? Do I really truly desire that God would take me and use me as a tool in the Master's hand? Many Christians say they want to be used by God. They want to see God move in their life in regard to touching other people and making a difference for the kingdom of Christ. Now, the issue is being willing. See, God is looking for a willing vessel, a conduit, if you will. I've heard it said God doesn't have a problem getting things to you if he can get them through you. Many times I've seen people, such as one of my good friends, his name's Jeremy. He runs Frontline Ministries, which is in Baldwin County, and I've seen this. I've seen money pass through his hand. I've seen resources pass through his hand. I've seen just a multiplicity of different things that God has been able to use this one guy for his kingdom in mighty ways. I could just go on and on. Now, when I see a person who's willing to be used by God, even take their weaknesses and boast in them because of what God even has done in every single area of their life, even in their weaknesses, His grace shines. I cannot help but to think about Jeremy. And even though we haven't seen each other in a long time, and it's not something where we hang out or fellowship a lot, those memories of his life and what God has done through him. See, because Jeremy has a horrible past, a past of jail, drugs, and many other things. God rescued him, saved him, drew him to himself, and caused him to become a new person in Christ. And God has used him in many ways to reach those people who are involved in the same lifestyle as he was. Now, I remember being around Jeremy. At the time, I was a youth pastor. And I remember his passion for Christ and passion for evangelism just sparked something in me that really, I'll be honest with you, without Jeremy's influence in my life and actual just impact that he made in my life as another minister of the gospel at the time I was a youth pastor, but he impacted me because of his passion and his boldness and his outreach. What actually developed in me years later is I became an evangelist. When I had left youth ministry and I had gotten married and moved away, the impact had stayed. It remained in me, that flame that friend had. The zeal for God that he had really influenced me and impacted me in such a way that I became myself an evangelist, and I have lived in submission to God in this way to be an evangelist for Christ and to boldly declare the gospel of Christ and to even train people in evangelism and even to accommodate churches to provide or facilitate outreach events and then get their people out there to reach the lost for Christ. And so all that happened unto me, but I remember watching Jeremy. I remember the impact from his life, and I remember just how much he was willing. When God said something, he just moved. And I wanted to be like that. I wanted to move when God spoke. I wanted to act. I didn't want to hesitate. I felt years before that I would hesitate at times, and what he taught me was willful obedience. Could we be more like those that maybe you know who just move with God? When God says something, they begin to act immediately. They don't hesitate. That's what I want to be. There was a movie with Jim Carrey in it called Yes Man. Now, I'm not referencing that so that you go see it. I'm just saying that this movie is about where a man cannot say no. He has to say yes. No matter what's asked of him, he just has to say yes. No is not an option. Well, what if we live that way? What if right when God said something, I'm talking about right then, immediately you acted, yes, Lord. As soon as he moved your heart to do something, you just act. Let this be our prayer today. God, I know I'm not perfect. There are insufficiencies I see in me. When I look at the man or the woman in the mirror, I see that I'm flawed. There are areas of my life where I need your grace. There are areas of my life where I recognize that I really am not the person that you need me to be, but yet I'm not who I used to be. Use me, God. I'm willing today to be a vessel for you, that you might use me for your kingdom.